Good afternoon to everybody. My name is Audronius Ažubalis. I am a member of Lithuanian Parliament. And now it's my pleasure to be a moderator of this distinguished panel, which has a very important for today's, I think for today's Europe and Ukraine as well, title, Ukraine as the EU's non-associated country, possibilities and challenges. But before I will introduce distinguished panelists, I would like to say a few words. First of all, we shouldn't exclude Ukraine, our Ukrainian case, after the Vilnius summit, from others EAP member countries. Because we should see the process. We should see how Ukraine is alienated with Moldova, states of Caucasus, Belarus. We should see the wider context. And please remember, 2 years ago I left the Warsaw with a very heavy heart. I thought that EAP policy has failed. We had at that time two different separate declarations. One declaration was from EAP countries and one from member states, EU member state countries. And I saw even, how to say, in my eyes, I saw the hostility sometimes between the participants of this summit. What we do have now? We do have a lot. We have two initial association agreements. We have visa-free with Moldova, visa facilitation with Azerbaijan. But even more, during 2 years, the whole Europe, together with our partners, have achieved the tremendous changes in the people's mind, tremendous changes in the minds of people in those countries. And what we see now in Ukraine, we see the thousands and thousands of people. It's a new wave of new Europeans. And that's what I think that we should talk about our continuation, about the future, but we shouldn't be pessimists. At least I'm thinking so. And now I would like to introduce distinguished panelists. First of all, it's Mr. Aleksander Kwaśniewski. Okay. No, everybody knows. Former president of Republic of Lithuania, but maybe not.
Maybe this is the future.
No. It sounds like, but I would like to say, he could become.
That's exactly what he said.
If he would stay in his early age in Lithuania. Because I would like to inform you that Mr. Kwaśniewski is a citizen of Vilnius. He born here, he grew up here, but after some time he left the parents to Poland. The next panelist, Arseniy Yatsenyuk, leader of a parliamentary faction of Batyvshchina.
Not the former president of Lithuania.
No,
Okay, fine.
Ukraine.
The future is yours, don't worry, you know.
Yes. Vitali Klitschko, leader of Udar Ukraine. Mr. Petro Poroshenko, member of Ukrainian Parliament, former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ukraine. And of course, Eugene Czolij, president of the Ukrainian World Congress, and Oleh Tyahnybok, leader of political party Svoboda, Ukraine. Let's start from the acknowledgement that we do not have very much time. The distinguished panelists should leave after 1 hour. That's what I'm giving, 5 minutes to each of you to make a main introductory remarks, and after that we will leave to public. First of all, Mr. President, the word is yours.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your little bit provocative introduction to me personally. I will start with this because just I write from the center where the Eastern Partnership Summit is finished, and it's a good question. It was an optimistic event or pessimistic event, and I tell you what is the difference between optimism and pessimism. A pessimist is well-informed optimist. And I feel myself that I'm quite well-informed optimist, and it means that I'm close to some kind of pessimism, what is a problem. But seriously speaking, this summit was a success, because what you mentioned, we initialed 2 agreements with Moldova and Georgia. We started this facilitation of a visa regime with Azerbaijan. But of course, everything was overshadowed by this main issue, the lack of signing of association, prepared last year, at least 1.5 years ago, association agreement and free trade area agreement with Ukraine. And today the main question is what can happen next. And of course, I agree with your position, and I think it was a position of all of speakers today. Of course, we should continue our efforts. We should continue our job. The door should be open for Ukrainians, and of course, Europe is ready to sign prepared documents as soon as possible. And of course, politically, that is quite clever and quite obvious position. And I think that is correct. And what concerns Europe, we can say, well, we are prepared. The problem is on the Ukrainian side. And I think this is maybe more interesting what we will hear from the leaders of the opposition, because what's happened last weeks or months. You know that I was a part, together with Pat Cox, former president of European Parliament. We were special envoys of European Parliament to Ukraine. We visited this country in the last 18 months 27 times. We spent almost 80 working days in Kiev and Kharkiv. We met President Yanukovych at least 18 or something like that times. We spent together 60 hours. Of course, that is an important part of our life, 60 hours with the Ukrainian president. Until summer, we were almost sure that Ukrainian government, Ukrainian president, they want to sign the agreement. Of course, we have some problems, we have some obstacles. You have the question of Yulia Tymoshenko, of course, but the mood and declarations, they were quite clear. Because I remember the speech of President Yanukovych during the inauguration of the parliament, and he mentioned 2 priorities, not 5 priorities, 10, it was 2 priorities. And he said, well, the first priority is European integration, the signing of association agreement, free trade agreement, etc. And the second is modernization of the economy, modernization of the country, modernization of social politics, which is possible by European integration. What is possible using all this knowledge, support, assistance, which is offered by European Union. So, what happened then? I think the first very important factor which changed the situation is, of course, this enormous pressure from Russian side. Everything what we observed from the summer, especially blockade of Ukraine export, did a lot of damage against Ukrainian economy, Ukrainian companies. But of course, it was one element of this Russian pressure. Mr. Poroshenko can tell us much more about this measures of blockade. But I think it was also the use very strong anti-European propaganda paid by Russians. And I think, and of course I have not evidence for that, Russians used a lot of personal contacts with a lot of representatives of Ukrainian elites, political life, economical life, to say, be careful, boys and girls, because if you will go to Europe, you will have a big problems. And that is a factor number 1, and it's necessary to say that this factor will be continued. It would be absolutely naive to think that this Russian pressure is finished because Ukraine didn't sign an association agreement in Vilnius. My prediction is that we can see Russian pressure next month, and the goal of this pressure will be very clear. It would be to have Ukraine not as an observer in Custom Union, but as a full member of Custom Union in the next months. And because Russians, they have still this possibility to press, especially Ukrainian economy and Ukrainian politics, they will try to use, in my opinion, this opportunity to make next step. And of course, next step, and that is Russian Russian project is to have Ukraine as a part of this new Euro-Asian Union, what is the main goal of President Putin for his political legacy. And I'm sure that for President Putin it's extremely important to be the founder of the superpower again, like in the history Peter the Great, Katrina the Great, or Joseph Vissarionovich, because really, and I understand this position. That's something what is quite natural. I can say nothing that is wrong from his point of view or Russian point of view. But in this analysis which we have now after Vilnius, it's necessary to understand that Russia will continue this pressure and will fight to have Ukraine on own side, first. Second, of course, Europe, I said, firstly, should have this open door policy, and we should encourage Ukrainians to go, to be more determined on this way. I think Europe should be prepared much better to answer how we are ready to help Ukraine because of all these Russian sanctions or pressure, etc. I think this element was not enough discussed on the top of European Union last month. But now, after this experience, we understand quite well that this, we should speak not only about values and standards, but we should speak about some concrete elements of this European policy towards Ukraine. And the third point, I think, is the most important, and that is something what is a main question for all of us last days. What really Ukraine wants to do? What is the position of the president? What is the position of the government? Because we don't know, frankly speaking. After all this declaration about this pro-European way and pro-European path, we see the change in the last minute. We were not informed about all these problems earlier. Our feeling is that we were, frankly speaking, not our mission, I speak about many European leaders, we were misled by Ukrainian leadership, and of course it creates a big problem, the problem of the trust, the problem of mutual understanding, the problem how to cooperate in the future if we have such fundamental problem. We cannot find common language and such mutual understanding. So our first question, and I think that will be the policy of all of us next month, is to ask Ukrainian government what means this situation, how they explain this last decisions, because we have still not enough information and explanation for that. Then, of course, for us, it's extremely important that Ukraine, and that is a big difference between Ukraine and Belarus, for example, or Russia, Ukraine has quite strong civil society. And this civil society tries to say something now on the streets. They want to say that we want to be part of European community. That is our not only dream, but that is our project for our life. The question for all of us is how strong the civil society is now. And if the civil society will be enough strong to say what they want during the next election, it means presidential election 2015. And finally, because I have not enough time for all this analysis, I think the next point is, of course, the position of leaders of these parties which are here, because in my opinion, 2015 can be decisive election for this main question, where Ukraine wants to go, to the east or to the west, or using the metaphor of Mr. Tyahnybok from the last session of the parliament. He said that the alternative it was some days before the match, not very successful match, France-Ukraine, but he said that the alternative is quite simple. If we want to play in the Champions League, or Ukraine wants to play in the Champions League, or Ukraine wants to play in Kremlin's Cup. And that is the case. And of course, in this case, it's necessary to say what is really the wish, what is the will of a majority of Ukrainians, because without this understanding from the roots, from the social level, from the civil society, it would be difficult to define such real strategy for the future. And of course, if opposition wants to go to Europe, it's necessary to collect all the people, collect all these efforts for this goal. And I think it's necessary from your point of view also to discuss very seriously how this Ukraine connected with European Union should manage all these relationships with Russia. Because this Russian factor, what I said on the beginning of my speech, is and will exist one of the most important elements defining the situation of Ukraine and policy of Ukraine. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before I'll ask and I give floor to Mr. Yatsenyuk, I would like to inform you that the negotiations regarding the Vilnius Declaration is still going on, and the diplomats still negotiating on the formulas. And one draft is changing another. And I just would like to quote one of the draft. The EU and the Ukraine reiterate their commitment to the signing of this agreement on the basis of determination, action, and tangible progress in the three areas emphasized at the 2013 EU-Ukraine summit. This is about association agreement. What do you think? What if it would be agreed in Vilnius? What it would mean for you, Mr. Arseniy?
Pleasure to see you, everyone. Frankly speaking, this is not the best day in my life. And people on the streets, they are absolutely frustrated. Me not, because I haven't expected nothing from this president. It was the bluff from the start. President Yanukovych has nothing to do with the European values, except European value, probably. And for today, what we need to channel the energy of millions in order to have, in my country, a really pro-European president, pro-European parliament, and pro-European government. What we as an opposition already did, we did everything. What we can as an opposition. We supported an enormous amount of, sorry to tell you, that bloody bills presented by President Yanukovych. We unblocked the House. We were absolutely and extremely cooperative with this government. Yulia Tymoshenko personally has sacrificed herself in order to lift the impediment on the road to the European Union. What President Yanukovych did, he sold the country. He did it in order to buy the office of the governor of Ukraine in Russian Empire. So we can easily name that the winner of this game is President Putin. And I want to be very clear on this particular issue. Folks, we lost Armenia. We practically lost Ukraine. And the Western world is losing this fight, I would say. And this is the reality. And we need to realize this. So we can say, you know, like Ukraine, that what we practically lost, Syria, Snowden, and Russia. It's like USSR in capital letters. I don't want to exaggerate the threat, no. But this is not the way how we can handle the foreign policy. Someone in Kremlin decided to turn the trade screw, and 45 million of Ukrainian people lost their hope in being a part of Europe. And there is no any effective mechanism how to stop this mess. Despite the fact that Russia is a member of WTO, despite the fact that we as Ukraine have a number of bilateral and multilateral agreements with the Russian Federation that Russia violates on a constant basis, despite the fact that the entire Western world said that, you know, we need to fight for this and for that and to support Ukraine, but in any case, we lost. And this is the reality for today. So what we are to do, we definitely need to be united as a Ukrainian opposition. And this is the key factor for us. And this is not about the personality who is to run in the presidential race. Frankly speaking, I don't care. I care about the president who is to sign a treaty with the European Union. We need to hammer out this deal with the European Union. And in order to get this victory, in order to take over the office of the president in 2015, because it was up to the president to sign. He has the hand and he has the pencil. We need to be determined and to be decisive. And heavily rely on the support of Ukrainian people. Because look, President Kuchma said that Ukraine is not Russia, and I would add that Kyiv is not Minsk. And if President Yanukovych thinks that he can easily just turn the tide and make the U-turn and sell the country and join the customs union because he needs guarantees. He needs guarantees from Russians or from someone else that he will retain in the office of the president in 2015. And in order to achieve this goal, he definitely needs, because the country is in a desperate financial plight. Look at the economy. Flat growth, minus 10% of the industrial output. We lost about $20 billion of forex reserves. So we are just going down on a very high speed. So, and in order somehow to maintain the situation, and in order somehow to cover the social expenditures, he needs a financial support. From the IMF, yes, but not in this case, because the IMF sets a clear benchmark to increase the tariffs for households, and it's not just about the tariffs, it's to balance the budget, to have less corrupted government, and to have more transparent financial system in the country. And again, it doesn't coincide with the goals of President Yanukovych. So he needs someone very flexible who can easily provide him with the $15 or $20 billion to fill the budget gap in order to cover the social expenditures and in order to rig the presidential elections and to buy the voters. Is President Putin ready to provide this on a free basis? No. Because for today, this President Yanukovych is much weaker than he was 5 hours ago. This is the trap for him. But we don't care about the president, we care about the country. So in my feeling is that President Putin will press on him and press on us. And you've raised an issue of relations with Russia. Look, we want to have these real relations, but not as a subordinates. Not as a young brother and old brother, you do remember from the Soviet times. And they still have this kind of model in their minds. So we need to start from the scratch, Mr. President, because frankly speaking, we don't have any kind of real relations with Russia, except one: press, 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 and press. Just final remark: the new president and the new government and the new house will sign an association agreement with the European Union, and we are determined to this goal.
Thank you, Mr. Yatsenyuk. Mr. Klitschko, what do you think about the possibility to keep the same level of public engagement in EU affairs in your country? Because till the presidential elections is still plenty of time, and the government could use any measures to calm down or to prevent from this engagement in EU affairs, in your path towards Europe. What do you think? What should be done?
Thank you. First of all, I want to say good afternoon, everybody. I don't know, is good afternoon or not good. I'm very disappointed. I'm very disappointed and upset because to the last minute, I hope, we make a meeting yesterday until middle night, all three leaders of opposition. We talking. We have a chance. Yanukovych is here. If Yanukovych ignore Vilnius, it's very bad sign. He's here and we have hope. We have hope to the last minute. We talk a lot with President Kwaśniewski because President Yanukovych make a lot of declaration. But between declaration and implementation always was huge difference. He promised that and that and that and that pretty long time. 22 years independence. We wait of changes in our country. We believe in better future. And right now, if we see 22 years ago, if Iron Curtain fall down, in Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore, It's our neighbor's country. Poland, Czech Republic, Slovak Republic, Hungary, and Lithuania make changes. They take a direction in these 22 years, huge progress. Huge progress in every kind of direction. Economy, civil society. We wait. Ukrainian can wait, but Ukrainian will be never wait if somebody steal the hope. And right now, if everybody was shocked, if we received the information, the government and president stopped moving to Euro integration in the last week. It was very difficult to understand, and that's why the result, you know, hundreds of thousands of people, millions around the world, come in many different cities, not just in Ukraine, in Paris, front of embassy, Berlin, Seoul, everywhere where Ukrainian want to live in country without ways no corruption, where we have rule of law, where we have main point, the human, which is right, and the future. A lot of Ukrainian, we talk about 46 million Ukrainian. It's the numbers of people a couple of years ago. I don't think so, we 46. No, it's Ukrainian more than 46 around the world, but it exists right now in Ukraine much less because people leave Ukraine, they need a job, they need the better future, they doesn't see the future in our home country. The last couple of 3 years ago, and President Yanukovych announced European integration as priority in our law, and we want everybody to make changes. But it was just declaration. Right now, the mask fall down. I told many times, Yanukovych don't want to move to European Union. He don't want to move to Custom Union. Why? It's a clear answer. Custom Union, if we talk about the plans of Russia to build empire. To build empire. In empire, we have just one imperator. He don't want to be the governor of Ukraine. He don't want to move to Europe because he don't want to make changes in our country because it means he can't make a business. And right now, what happens in Ukraine? They break all rules, almost 3-year Kyiv without mayor, self-government destroyed, the people, it's no rules and no trust to police, no trust to justice, no trust to nobody, and we have just a hope. What happens right now, and you question what we have to do right now, is the main point, civil society. The main point, civil society, because I don't think so Yanukovych have power to fight against civil society. Everybody told Europe it's our way. And we have to talk right now about our plan. And our plan, if Yanukovych don't want to go to Europe, we have to do everything. We go to Europe without Yanukovych. It's our main goal as opposition. How it will be not easy. We work with different parties, with different ideology. We have, but united us two very important things. We want to live in Ukraine as European country and with European rules, and we're fighting all together against regime.
Thank you, Mr. Klitschko. Now I would like to give a floor to Mr. Poroshenko, who is not just experienced politician, but also a successful businessman, who, by the way, experienced the Russian sanctions on his enterprises. But now we could talk about not those who are against Ukraine, but who could be and should be and must be, at least what I am thinking, and maybe are, for Ukraine. I would like to ask how you think about the last mission of IMF and very strict conditions which they've set up to Ukrainian government on 31st of October. Please.
Thank you very much, dear colleagues, distinguished audience. I think this is a very important date and very important place when we have this meeting. 29th of November, Vilnius. Starting from February year 2013, millions of Ukrainians connected with this date and with this place their strong hopes for European integration of Ukraine. We count weeks and days until Ukraine make a formal step to become an associated member of European Union. And we try to do our best to reach that. Does it today day of disappointment? I try to be absolutely on contrary with the previous speeches. Not at all. We do a lot of positive things during this half a year. The first achievement, more than 60% of Ukrainians now supporting European integration. That never ever before in Ukrainian history. And this is a result of our joint work, successful work. Position number 2. Can you tell me, do you really believe that Yanukovych are going to sign this association agreement? From my point of view, that was a surprise, a miracle. Not what we really want to accept and to wait. But we pass a long way, including strengthening the civil society. And immediately when in absolutely undiplomatic manner, Ukrainian government make this decision, our dear European partners, I'm very sorry for the style of communication of Ukrainian government with their European partners. This is simply unacceptable. This is killing the trust. And that's understandable that it's created enormous difficulties to cooperate further without this form of trust. But we want to thank a lot all European leaders. President of Lithuania, Dalia Grybauskaitė, who make tremendous efforts to provide Ukraine for signing up association agreement. To mission of President Cox and President Kwaśniewski for 28 visits and constant work. Sorry, but I'm sure that you will have a monument before the Ukrainian Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Very much, of course.
Because you do a tremendous job, no matter if we don't have a success. Why? It's not your fault. And the whole European leaders demonstrating, we do not give Ukrainian authority the chance to put a responsibility on Europe by presenting any new condition for signing up association agreement, for not making a compromise on Euler case or anything like that. Not at all. This is your, gentlemen, responsibility, because key to Europe, we keep the door open, saying the European leaders. But key from this door is in Kiev. Please take the key and open the door. We're not doing that, but it is your responsibility. By the way, does it European integration of Ukraine is in danger? Does we are absolutely sure that we don't have any difficulties in year 2015? Yes, it is in danger.
It's in danger, yes, you're right.
We will, maybe in 1 or 2 weeks, we will have initiative for withdrawing Ukraine from Energy Community Treaty. Do you understand that that was a precondition for deep and comprehensive free trade agreement? And having that, maybe, that would be a reason to have a new negotiation for the new, maybe, or maybe probably, more ambitious association agreement, more ambitious DCFTA. But that's created danger. And we should defend our European perspective. We should defend the democracy in Ukraine. Defending democracy meaning we should defend the civil society in Ukraine, which passed a very successful test during the last week, having hundreds of thousands of people on the streets of Kyiv and millions of people on the streets of Ukraine and on the whole world, demonstrating we have a brilliant civil society. And we have a strong hopes because of this civil society to demonstrate and to win that European idea, which united Ukraine actually, because Ukraine living many, many years separated, east from west, on the religion, on the language, on a different other factor, but idea European integration is unite the country. I promise you, we keep this unity. And I promise you, we do our best to keep with the Ukrainian people the European idea. And I am optimist, even in such a difficult day like today, that Ukraine will be a member of European Union. And the question of Russia, and question of IMF, and question of compensation, very stupid question, by the way, because I don't understand why European taxpayers should pay corruptive Ukrainian authorities for having independent court, for having democracy, to having freedom of speech, freedom of mass media. This is in our interest. And exactly in our interest is all the points which is in the IMF program. Because this is not talking about the rising up the tariffs. This is a closing of corruptive black hole of NAK Naftogaz when they steal in the money. Money which is money of Ukrainian taxpayers and money of the whole world taxpayers which forming the budget of the IMF. This is unacceptable. That's why our goal is, and we don't have any economic difficulties, because pressure of Russia on Ukrainian enterprises. This is not a question of the interest, of the honor of these enterprises or the fate of these enterprises. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a question of Ukrainian sovereignty. This is a question of Ukrainian independence. And Ukrainian independence and Ukrainian sovereignty is priceless. And we thank a lot our European partners for demonstrating solidarity with Ukraine, for keeping door open in Ukraine, and answering to President Kwaśniewski, what is our plan? We should work hard for keeping European door open for Ukraine. We should work hard to have in year 2014 visa-free regime, which is not directly associated with association agreement, but Ukrainian people do their best to have visa-free regime, and we really count on your support, our European colleagues and friends.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Poroshenko. Now the word goes to Mr. Tyahnybok, and my first question is, very mildly speaking, the Ukrainian society is not so homogeneous. And when we are talking about that now it's such a huge pro-European wave in your society, we see some differences. What do you think about how to engage whole Ukraine, whole regions in this pro-European activity? Thank you.
Дякую за ваше запитання. Вітаю, шановне товариство. Дійсно, українське суспільство є неоднорідним. Але я хочу нагадати історичний один такий факт, коли в нас були проблеми з Росією,
Just a moment, because the people need to... Yeah.
коли в нас були проблеми...
Second channel.
Зачекайте. Так. Подумати.
Okay, please.
Дякую. Коли в нас були проблеми з Росією навколо острова Тузла, тоді ця подія моментально об'єднала українців як з Заходу, так і з Сходу. Як і україномовних, так і російськомовних. І ось зараз сталася ситуація для багатьох несподівана, але питання європейської інтеграції, воно доволі серйозно згуртувало в кулак українське громадянське суспільство. І фактично та ідея нашого майбутнього в Європі, вона стала базовою для багатьох людей. Звісно, що режим Януковича сьогодні є зацікавлений в тому, щоб розділити українське суспільство. Щоб ви розуміли, що вони завжди діяли за римською старою формулою «розділяй і володарюй». Це було завжди. Вони, наприклад, протягом останнього року нашої спільної боротьби в парламенті постійно, кожного дня намагалися нас, трьох лідерів опозиції, наші політичні партії, пересварити. Але їм цього не вдалося. Можливо, оці виклики, які сьогодні Господь дав Україні, можливо, вони якраз і допоможуть згуртувати дуже сильно і сцементувати Україну. Ми маємо зовнішній виклик. Ми розуміємо, що сьогодні Путін не пробачить Януковичу оту подвійну гру протягом останнього року часу. Адже Янукович намагався всидіти на двох стільцях. Він хотів свою політику вести таким чином, щоб і домовитися з Митним Союзом, і з Європою. Щоб одні його не чіпали, і інші не чіпали. Щоб одних можна було доїти трошки, і інших можна було трошки доїти. І самому з того користатися. Але не вдалося. Ви пригадуєте, тільки-но Янукович і його команда почали заявляти мінімальні тези про євроінтеграційні прагнення України, як Путін моментально дав реакцію. І це була жорстка реакція. Це були не просто його політичні слова, це були економічні санкції. Проти України почалася м'ясна війна, молочна війна, війна шоколадна. Це поруч з тим, що Росія ніколи не припиняла вести інформаційну війну проти України. До речі, ми говоримо, що, наприклад, Східна Україна є проросійсько налаштована. А як по-іншому? Якщо вони дивляться тільки російські канали, де повністю спотворена інформація про Україну і, звичайно, про Європу. То як може бути по-іншому? Росія веде проти України енергетичну війну з постійними шантажами. Росія веде гуманітарну війну, навіть релігійна війна проти України. Російський патріарх Кирил, глава Московської православної церкви, заявив чітко, він хоче на території України, як він каже, строїть руський мір. От вони хочуть в нас робити руський мір. І оце величезна зовнішня загроза, яка сьогодні не тільки перед Україною є, але й перед Європою, товариство. Мені здається, для Європи дуже важливо, чи кордон з Кремлівською імперією знаходиться на східному кордоні України, чи на західному кордоні України. Сьогодні, на жаль, ми бачимо, що цей кордон перемістився для Європи на західний кордон України. Другий фактор – це є внутрішній фактор. Режим Януковича не буде пробачати громадянам, які проявили свій протест. Вже зараз розпочалися репресії проти учасників Євромайдану. І ці репресії будуть тривати і далі. Ми передбачаємо, що міністр освіти Табачник розпочне активні дії проти студентів, які були дуже активними протягом останнього тижня часу. Будуть і позбавлені вони стипендії, найбільші активісти. Не виключено, що їх будуть навіть звільняти з навчальних закладів. Це так само може стосуватися опальних ректорів, які виступили на підтримку громади і дозволяли студентам, не забороняли, по-іншому скажу, студентам виходити на вулиці. Ми розуміємо, що репресії почнуться і проти активних учасників Майдану, і вони вже є. Я сьогодні на прес-конференції інформував, що 2 активістів вже суд моментально заарештував на 2 місяці. Це при тому, що ми майже кожен другий день в Україні отримуємо відомості, що величезні корупціонери, злодії, які крадуть державний бюджет, яких звинувачують в мільйонних розтратах державної казни, їх відпускають до суду. Декому надягають браслет, дехто навіть з тим браслетом може собі вільно чи не вільно, але поїхати за межі України і десь там переховуватися. Але по відношенню до активістів Майдану сьогодні почалися репресії. Ще 2 активістів нашої організації вчора були затримані. Вчора були спалені 2 автомобіля. Один автомобіль, мікроавтобус, який займався логістикою Євромайдану, інший мікроавтобус керівника Херсонської організації «Свободи», який був одним з активних учасників Євромайдану в Херсоні. Це є попередження і це є намагання залякати опозицію. Крім того...
Just a moment, because President Kwaśniewski is leaving, but maybe you will agree, sorry that I interrupted you, because the time is precious, just to answer 2 questions, short. 2 questions, who wants? Please.
Yeah.
Sorry, because...
Arseniy Yatsenyuk, the chairman of Expert Council on the EU-Ukraine Committee. I use this opportunity to say thank you, Mr. President, for that work. And we hope... I want to also believe that this will not finish your work with Ukraine.
Okay, question, please question.
My question, Mr. Füle, European Commissioner Füle mentioned this position of EU still the same, open door. You have learned some lessons from this experience. Please give your advice. 2 main things what we should do together with opposition.
Okay, the last question, please. Okay, but just please fast.
Yes.
Mr. President, what's happening in Vilnius reminds me of the story of this woman who had 20 kids, and everybody was asking her, oh, you must love kids. You must love kids. All the time the same question. And eventually she answered, well, not so much, but I really love the process. And here, everybody was asking for the last few months, oh, we'll sign the association agreement, we'll sign the association agreement. And we forgot that to sign the association agreement, to have the baby, there needs to be a process. And the process was improving democracy, rule of law, market economy. And no progress has been done. It has been even a regression. So my question is to you, Mr. President, using what Petro Poroshenko was saying. Do you think the European Union should pay for the process?
Well, I said it's important questions. I have very limited time. So first, this lesson also for European Union, I mean the lesson what happened last days and weeks with Ukraine is important for all of us. We discussed in European Parliament 5th of December, and 5th of December will be the decision what to do with our mission. I think is a chance that we will prolong, of course, in different conditions. We don't know what kind of reaction we can expect from the authority of Ukraine, but I think to show for Ukraine that Europe is still engaged, it's necessary to prolong our job, and we are ready to do it. I said only one thing, that if President Schulz will decide to prolong our mission, he's obliged to send very personal letters to our wives. Because I think this is the weakest point of our mission now, you know, that we say to our wives they will spend next 80 days and nights in Kiev and other places. Then, of course, I agree with my colleagues here, and my first wish is really be united, because that is maybe the most important element. If you are united, this is a chance That first of all, you can collect the civil society around you, and secondly, even we observed, we were in Verkhovna Rada, and we know how it works, but still, if you are united, that's some power. It's not enough power, and you are not correctly respected by the majority, but still you are power. If you will be divided, no chances for nothing. Then we have extremely important and sensitive moment in the history of Ukraine. Because frankly speaking, next month, until the election 2015, with election 2015, it's a time when Ukraine finally will define own destiny. To the east, to the west, or stay as some kind of political vacuum. And that's something what will happen. We know about Russian pressures. It will be continued. We know about the politics of President Yanukovych. Something unknown for us is the power of civil society and the power of the opposition and the possibility to organize the really strong support for this European aspiration by the voters in the election 2015. That is the decisive moment. Europe should do everything to keep door open, to support civil society, to support the leaders and parties of pro-European orientation. And I think what is extremely important, and we need good time for that, is necessary to discuss about all these economical elements which are the real problem of Ukraine now. Because frankly speaking, with Russian support or without Russian support, with IMF support or without, the Ukraine very close to the bankruptcy. That is a problem that even we can sign, theoretically, would be much better if we would sign association agreement today. But next days, Ukraine can be associated member with economical default. And I think that is something what was not the task of our mission, Kwaśniewski mission, but that is a task of European leaders and the leaders of Commission, the leaders of European Union, to discuss what we can do to support Ukrainian economy, to support Ukrainian finances, etc. And last point, and that is, I absolutely agree with you, with Petro. If we are speaking with Ukrainians about European values, European standards, independent courts, freedom of speech, independent media, freedom of media, we don't speak about our business. We speak about your business. We speak about your country, how to make Ukraine better organized, more democratic, modernized in many elements. And when we have a question from today's authority of Ukraine that because of your proposal, it means European proposal, we need some extra compensation, that is, of course, unacceptable. We can speak about some kind of assistance, support, solidarity, but we cannot say that this Europe is so difficult, so strange structure that it's necessary to compensate that because Ukraine, we want to have Ukraine in our community. That is absolutely unacceptable, and I'm sure, and after my experience in Ukraine from the independence of Ukraine the last 22 years, and after everything what we can observe now, I'm still optimistic. I know that we have decisive time, we have a difficult time, we'll have a lot of problems, we'll have enormous pressure from the East, we'll have problems domestically in Ukraine, but you have civil society, you have young generation, you have such good leaders as you sitting here in front of our audience. And if we will collect all these efforts, if we will collect our knowledge and our determination, we can reach this goal. Ukraine is part of Europe, and now it's necessary to do everything to say, not only to say that Ukraine is a part of Europe, but Ukraine should be the part of Europe, and that is my wish, that is not my dream, and I'm sure that together we will fulfill these dreams and these hopes of so many, many Ukrainians. Thank you for your attention, and thank you for our cooperation, and we will continue.
Thank you, Mr. President. All the best to you in your endeavor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. Thank you.
And now, dear friends, I will ask Mr. Eugene Czolij, who represents here 20 million of Ukrainian diaspora. Mr. Czolij, please.
I have mixed feelings about what happened in the last months. As you know, in Ukraine, with two Klitschko brothers, boxing is a very popular sport. And in boxing, it's not who wins the first round, nor the second round. It's he who wins the last round that counts. I think clearly what transpired in Ukraine, President Putin won the first round. His puppets in Ukraine won the second, and it's up to us to win the third. Clearly, after 4 years of negotiations, initialing the agreement more than a year and a half ago, to come with the lame excuse that we witnessed on November 21 is simply unacceptable. Where my optimism lies is in what happened 3 days after November 21. On November 24, somebody much more important than the president of Ukraine, much more important than the governing authorities of Ukraine, the people of Ukraine spoke. And you name me one country that's a member of the EU today, when there's this soul-searching within the EU that could mobilize over 100,000 people in November for hours outside, not to fight for jobs, for lower taxes, for better pensions, but for an ideal. For an ideal for Europe, for Ukraine's Euro integration. I think it's now incumbent on those within the EU that were saying for the last year and longer that we want to hear that tangible voice from Ukraine that it really wants to be part of the EU. Well, the EU got it from the most important component in Ukraine. It got it from the people of Ukraine. And I think now it's incumbent upon Europe to answer that call. That call that was united, voluntary, and extremely clear.
Thank you, Mr. Czolij.
I just want to tell you one more thing, that in 1994, at the insistence of the international community, Ukraine did something that probably no other country would have done. It got rid of its nuclear arsenal. And in return, the international community blessed that move with the Budapest Agreement. That agreement, contrary to popular belief, does not just address the military issue. The Budapest Agreement provides that those who have signed the agreement, which includes Russia, will not use economic pressure against Ukraine. So when Europe talks about values, Europe needs to address the Russian problem. And Europe needs to come up with a clear and tangible process, formula to deal with Russia. It's not enough to have just a condemnation of that conduct. There needs to be a clear policy how to deal with a country that blatantly violates international conventions.
Thank you, Mr. Czolij. We do have a real shortage of time. That's what I'm asking you to ask very precisely, not make any statements, but just ask. Mr. Andrius Kubilius, please, opposition leader, former twice Prime Minister of Lithuania.
Dear colleagues, really, it's a pleasure to see you again, still surviving and in a good boxing mood, I should say. So really, the day is not very happy. Still, I remember yesterday we still had some small hopes that the day can be much more happy. But I think that what we need, it's obvious what happened. So the question is just now, what is a post-Vilnius strategy? And my very simple questions. One is really, what do you think about what President Kwaśniewski was speaking, economical and financial situation of Ukraine, and what is the solution? Because as we understand from the numbers, really it's on the verge of collapse. So maybe Mr. Poroshenko can explain. Second question. Just few very small questions.
You are stealing
very simple,
the question.
Very simple, no. It's, as we understood from the news, President Yanukovych still declared, going from Vilnius, that there is an opportunity to sign association agreement maybe during the next EU-Ukraine summit. So what is your opinion about that? And the last point, elections in 2015. What we need to do to defend possibility to have a real democratic elections in Ukraine in 2015, with everything what we saw till now, what happened in Ukraine.
Now I understand why you achieved twice to become a prime minister of Lithuania. Mr. Badalinskas, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alvydas Madalinskas, Mykolas Riomeris University. Well, I think we are all disappointed about what happened yesterday evening and this morning, but there is also the brighter side. This civic activity in the streets, in the squares of Kiev and other places in Ukraine. We all were talking that that's a very positive sign because it's also the shift of the ideas in the minds of the people, geopolitical shift. But you all know one problem, that there is not so clear connection between you as a free party leaders and those people. I was in the weekend and talking was not only with politicians, but also with the people on the ground in Maidan, with those who organize these Maidans. We also ask you not to bring the political banners, flags, prapors, and so on. So, but the question is now, what message are you going to send to those people who are now on the street and in the squares? How you're planning to make a bridge with those people between the free political parties in opposition and those people who have the same idea, pro-European idea? And the last point, maybe you are planning to present for them united team of all your free parties. As in the European Union countries, we are calling it shadow cabinet or whatever, that people would see the team, united team, going together for 2015.
Okay.
Thank you.
5 minutes left, please. The last question, and that's it. It's about you, please.
My name is Ostap Krivdik. I'm a political analyst from Ukraine. My question is simple. What will EU do and what will opposition do if Yanukovych would like to make Maidan a new Tyahnybok Square? Having violently broken down the opposition, is EU ready to get new political refugees? What opposition will do if Maidan is violently broken?
I've got, please, each of you, short answers, please. Mr. Arseniy.
On the economic stance and on the financial meltdown, the key factor for us is the IMF loan, but it's clear that he will never meet the benchmarks of the IMF loan. So he heavily relies on Russian cash, and that's the reason why he actually made this U-turn. On the opposition, I want to be very clear that the opposition is to stay united, and this is the only chance how to take over the office of the president of 2015. You know, we need to establish something like a joint chief of staff in order to win this fight, the fight for the pro-European future of the Ukrainian people. The third issue related to civil society and political parties that are a little bit split. You know what has happened, and frankly speaking, probably I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, correct me, but it's imported technology from Russia and from Belarus to say, look, all politicians are bastards. We need to have some kind of civil society. And then, just to get rid of political forces, we can have a number of perfect rallies of 20 or even 30 or 100,000 people with no political representation. That's what has happened in Russia, and that's what has happened in Belarus. So, our goal of politicians to say, look, if one can say that this is not the political war, no, this is the clear-cut political demand, because to join the European Union is a political aim. To topple the president of Ukraine is a political aim. To change the country is a political aim. And this job has to be done by politicians in a strong cooperation with the civil society. In extremely strong cooperation with the civil society.
Thank you.
And that's our job.
Mr. Vitali, please.
It's clear. Without communication with three leaders, without united opposition, we can't win this game. Not game, this battle. Because right now they're starting duty game against everyone. And the main goal for Yanukovych, he understands the danger and he give everything to win election 2015. We understand we have to unite it and coordinate our activity. Without together work, we will lose definitely. First point. The second point. Right now, I'm totally agree. We talk about that. What say Arseniy about civil society and party. Every people who come to Maidan and support European integration, it's already politician. Already political wish to decide to live in Europe. And that's why I'm more than sure we have to work, we have to explain, it's together work. Because we, a political party, we are representative of society also. And I'm more than sure we have to work much more together and to understand, to explain to people, it's just if we win together, if not, we lose together. Political and society also.
Thank you. Mr. Poroshenko, please.
Thank you very much indeed. I have two very short answers. I'm not agreed that we should build a bridge between civil society and opposition parties. This is not true. Every part of the deal should have their own function. Opposition parties should be a member or should be inside the civil society. But it should be the leader of the civil society and present a plan what to do. Because for civil society, it would be a little bit more difficult than for the opposition party to take a plan and to take responsibility for the success, fulfillment of this plan. And for the economic question, we should understand that Ukraine cannot survive as it was before, in the situation as it was before, additional 4, 5, 6 months. Because of the budget deficit, because of the current state of the golden currency reserve, which we said that it is cut by half within the last 2 years. And they have two options. Option 1, European integration in IMF. Option 2, loans from Russia and lowering price on the gas just for cutting the budget and deficit of payment. We understand that yesterday and today, Ukrainian authority choose the second version. I think this is the best. This is the bad option for Ukraine. And I think that this scenario is not avoid us from the economic problem in the future. Because we don't need the money, or just the money. We need a modernization of economic. With this scenario, we don't have a modernization. And that's the main problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tyahnybok, please.
На першому етапі нам дуже важливо зберегти єдність парламентської опозиції і скоординувати наші дії, в тому числі в контексті виборів 2015 року. І будьте певні, ми придумаємо найоптимальніший варіант, щоб ці вибори виграти. На другому етапі нам потрібно все зробити, щоб не було протистояння між парламентською опозицією і позапарламентською опозицією, яка сьогодні вже починає формуватися. Інша річ, що як парламентська опозиція, так і позапарламентська опозиція – це є політика. Тому нам потрібно розбити оті плани Банкової адміністрації президента Януковича щодо протистояння між громадянським суспільством і опозиційною політичною силою, які надмухувалися штучно. От ми зараз маємо приїхати і поставити крапку на тому протистоянні. Що стосується економічного фактору, ми розуміємо, що Україна економічно на грані дефолту. Ми розуміємо, що всі ті подачки, які сьогодні отримують від Росії, це лише латання дірок. Якщо дають 15 мільярдів, то мінімум половину вкрадуть собі в кишеню, решта кинуть на погашення відсотків від кредитів. А решта, можливо, там трошки на виборчу кампанію. Народ того не отримає. І, звісно, ми маємо нюхом відчути настрій людей, коли реально люди зможуть повстати проти тієї влади і зуміти не допустити репресій, про що було запитання. Бо ми сьогодні є реально на порозі жорстких силових репресій проти тих, хто думає не так, як влада Януковича.
Thank you. And Mr. Czolij, please.
I'd like to answer the third question of Mr. Kubilius, namely what to do in order to optimize the possibilities of having as close as possible to fair elections. I think that we have seen in 2004 what it takes. It takes a maximum number of international observers. It has worked then, it will work every time that the world looks at the elections. And I want to use this opportunity to say that this week, Canada has announced that it will send 25 international election observers on December 15 for the partial rerun elections in 5 districts. If Canada can send 25 international observers across the sea, then European countries should send a substantial higher number in order to ensure that those by-elections or rerun elections are as close as possible to fair elections, to give an immediate signal to those who were on the street the whole week that Europe has heard their message and is immediately acting not only with words but with action, and in order to ensure that people would have the confidence to go to vote in 2015, knowing that the international community will be there.
Thank you. Thank you. Dear friends, thank you for being here. I think on the name of all of us, we wish you all success, great success, and be sure that we will stand together with you. All the best to you, and have a safe trip going back.
Thank you.